Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. An assurance to farmers that they are on government's priority list. The Ministry of Planning and Sustainable Development and the Ministry of National Diversity and Social Integration encourages communities to come together. And the winners of the National Song Competition, Independence, Calypso and Chatri Soca Monarch competitions awarded their prizes. Thank you for joining us. Farmers who attended the first budget and the Farmer Forum were generally pleased and happy with the attention given to the industry. However, they were a bit skeptical of seeing major changes in the agricultural sector. Minister of Finance and the Economy, the Honorable Larry Hawaii, assures farmers that they are on top of government's priority list. The forum, hosted by the Agricultural Development Bank, ADB, drew farmers and agriculturists from around the country to discuss how the 2013 budget can aid progress in that industry.
Held at the Centrepoint Mall in Chaguanas, the forum panel consisted of Finance Minister Larry Hawaii, Food Production Minister Devant Maraj, Planning Minister Dr. Bo Tiwari, Chaguanas Mayor Orlando Nagasa, ADB Chairman Rudy Maraj, ADB Chief Executive Siobhan Ramnath, and Gillian O'Neill of accounting firm KPMG. The farmers seized the opportunity to raise a litany of concerns. Some say it is all well and good to talk about changing the local agricultural game, but food crops have seen only decline over the last decade.
We want to talk about farmers' crop compensation. We talk about the self-employed people get paying NIS. But what about crop compensation? Because with global climate change, we have disasters coming more and more frequently. And we see what happened in Diego Martin recently. And farmers face these things every year. Floods, wiping out the entire crop.
Let me thank the ADB for bringing us this kind of forum, because in my 30 years in this business, this is the first time we are getting it from the ADB.
Thank you, Mr. Harewood.
My first thing is that the money is not enough for agriculture. That is how the layman is seeing it. Because education and training 9 point something, health 5 something, national security 5 something, public utilities 3 something, housing 3 something, works and infrastructure 2 something, transport 1 something, agriculture 1 something. When will we come first? We still 8. We want to be first. Because if education and training getting 9.9, what about the healthy lifestyle these people will get?
Finance Minister Larry Hawaii, addressing the forum, sought to clear up the perception that the Ministry of Food Production and therefore Agriculture had been allocated less funds in this year's budget and was therefore not a priority of the government.
The agricultural sector I see as very critical, and I mentioned about 11 sectors when I spoke in the budget. But there are 8 that are really critical in terms of the focus for diversifying the economy. And of that 8, a very important one inside of there is the agricultural sector. We see the agricultural sector as playing a very critical role because our goal is food security.
The minister explained that several state agencies embedded in food production had been moved to other ministries, taking their budgets with them. Among these were the EMBD and the Department of State Lands, which have both been moved to the Ministry of Housing.
This issue is at the center of achieving the human development goals that I'm sure that Dr. Tiwari will speak to when he comes on stage. And the World Health Organization, and I just want to quote from them because they have identified food security as including both physical and economic access to food that meets people's dietary needs as well as their food preferences. And they saw sustainable food security as a fundamental aspect of human security. So I just wanted to say that in the context of identifying global importance of food. And that is why we have identified the agricultural sector as one of the main pillars for diversification of the economy going forward.
These were not created into the 2013 budget, but food production has, in essence, been left with more funding than in recent years. He says there will be more private sector initiatives and more government-to-government partnerships with the goal of attaining constant food security.
Achieving food security depends on the availability of sufficient quantities of food, not just from time to time, but it must be on a consistent basis. And we therefore must have access to sufficient resources to ensure that this is done. To ensure food security, therefore, we need to look at more than just food supply. Food supply is one element of the chain, but we also need to look at our cultural patterns, our dietary needs, food distribution and waste, and the protection and regeneration of the resource base for food production.
Minister Hawai says the state is now looking at 10,000 acres that may be available for rice farming and will try to bring 5,000 acres into production quickly. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
Meanwhile, Food Production Minister, the Honorable Devant Maraj, gave a report on the improvements in the prevention of predial larceny in some areas of farming. Speaking at the first budget and the Farmer Forum, he says the focus now will be on finding and dealing with hotspots in agriculture.
There are over 6,000 lapsed leases that we have to treat with, and we're trying to treat with it as quickly as possible. The issue of predial larceny is a perennial problem in every nook and cranny throughout Trinidad and Tobago. And within the budget, we have a provision for the Agricultural Ranger Unit. And we launched its pilot project in Carsonfield about a month and a half ago. And I'm reliably being informed that since its launch, there has been a significant impact on predial larceny in that area.
Minister Maraj says he has spoken to the Minister of National Security, Jack Warner, on the issues of predial larceny affecting farmers across the country. He adds that the Predial Larceny Act of 2000 empowers the Commission of Police to instruct the National Security Minister to appoint predial larceny officers. This and many other incentives, he says, will soon come into effect.
So we're looking at over 200 SRPs, at least, to go into a predial larceny prevention unit to augment and support the Ranger Squad. Labor is another area that farmers are screaming about. We have had discussions with the chairman of CPEP to explore a strategic alliance with CPEP in order to address that labor problem. I understand that there is already some work being done with CPEP and the cocoa industry, with over 165 persons being utilized successfully from what I'm told. So to be able to use that as a model to see where we could replicate it in other areas with other farmers.
The Minister of Food Production says that one glaring problem that his ministry has also started work on is the divide between the school feeding program and the local farming community.
And after having discussions with Ms. Dana Suku from the Agricultural Society, I called a meeting between the chairman of the board of NABDEMCO at the school feeding program. And a week ago, we launched in every single extension office in the Ministry of Food Production an officer that will liaise with the school feeding program to connect the farmers in the area, what they produce, and what is required from the school feeding program.
While local fruits and vegetables are scarce on the school program, Minister Maraj says he will often get complaints from farmers that they had no one to buy their produce, and they frequently dumped goods.
What we noticed, the school feeding program telling us at the Ministry of Food Production that they cannot find this commodity or that commodity. And when we speak to the farmers say they're producing it and nobody buying it. They have to dump it or they cannot get the price they want. So the answer was a simple and in front of our face of connecting these two groups together. The political will was there, and that has been implemented. It did not take us long. We used the existing resources.
The ministry has since appointed officers to each agricultural community to act as bridges between the farmers and the program to ensure more local produce on the menu.
We are pressing them to localize it as much as possible, and you will see a new Localize It, Eat Local, Buy Local campaign being launched once again in a short space, as we have the budget allocated for it, to focus our national attention on buying local and assisting our trust towards becoming a food secure nation.
He says he would also like to see the creation of world brand status for produce unique to Trinidad and Tobago. One in particular is the Buffalipso, created in the country and now prized in countries like Italy for its meat and milk for cheese making, is a prime example. The minister says he wants to brand and monetize local honey, cocoa, and famed scorpion pepper of Moruga before they too are lost in this country. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
News 4 continues after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. This month is National Patriotism Month, and both the Ministry of Planning and Sustainable Development and the Ministry of National Diversity and Social Integration are encouraging communities to come together to paint murals in each community.
Minister of Planning and Sustainable Development, Dr. The Honorable Bo Tiwari, has launched a regional mural project titled Represent. The project, which is community-based, also forms part of the 50th anniversary of independence celebrations. Speaking to the media, Dr. Tiwari says the project will foster a true community spirit in citizens. He reveals that there are plans to do approximately 16 murals throughout Trinidad and Tobago. These, the minister says, will also beautify some communities and possibly have an even greater effect on the nature of the residents.
Community participation, and you also help to beautify the place, and you also instill an artistic presence in all of these communities. As you know, the environment has a lot, the kind of environment you live in has a lot to do with the way people feel and the way people think and what their disposition is. And we are hoping to do this all over the country. I have projects in East Port of Spain too, and one of the projects we have is in fact some of the public art mural type projects. So we are going to do this all over the country, and hopefully if people like what we do, they may do it on their own, because we are not doing this. We are getting the community to do this.
Minister Tiwari is urging all members of the community to come forward and participate in the drive. He says it is important that even children and schools in the community get involved in the project.
We are not doing this. We are getting the community to do this. And the idea is that the community will participate and create. And we hope that artistic people in the community will take leadership, but that not artistic people alone in the conventional sense of recognition will take part. We want the community to be involved. We would love school children to be involved. We will love the schools to be involved. And anybody who is interested, we would like them to be involved.
Murals have been started in Arima on Queen Mary Avenue along the Arima Velodrome, in Chaguanas by the Chaguanas Borough Corporation at Woodford Lodge Recreation Ground, in Mount Hope at the corner of the Uriah Butler Highway and the bus route, in Sangre Grande opposite the old post office, in Mayaro at the Mayaro Recreation Center, in Tunapuna at the corner of El Dorado and Macoya Roads near Hilo, and in Pinal along the SS Erin Road opposite the market. Persons interested in contributing to the murals or looking for more information can head to Facebook and search for the keywords Represent, the Regional Mural Project. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
The winners of the National Song Competition and Independence Calypso and Chutney Soca Monarch competitions have been awarded their prizes. They were given their awards at a gala event hosted by the Ministry of Arts and Multiculturalism at the Queen's Hall in St. Anne's, Port of Spain.
$69 million will be invested in culture. This is the promise of the Minister of Arts and Multiculturalism, Dr. The Honorable Lincoln Douglas. Dr. Douglas made the promise while addressing the audience at the prize-giving ceremony for the National Songs and the Independence Chutney Soca and Calypso Monarch competitions. Dr. Douglas says this is all in an effort to better the economy through diversification and the creation of jobs as a result of cultivating creative cultural industries.
We're ready to make our contribution toward diversifying our economy by expanding and developing the infrastructure that will foster thriving creative cultural industries. An estimated sum of $69 million will be invested in the creative and cultural economy over the period 2013 to 2015. Music and entertainment, the arts, fashion, and film all represent critical public policy initiatives designed to trigger job creation and national wealth. This investment therefore augurs well for our artists and our artisans.
Also, Dr. Douglas announces that the ministry plans to hold their final round of consultations on 3 national policies at the end of this month. These policies, he says, needs the public's approval and as such is asking citizens to come out in their numbers and have their say. He adds that this is the public's chance to let their voice be heard on the implementation of these policies.
We are committed. We are committed to implementing key policies and plans, in addition to facilitating the direct and indirect infrastructural arrangements that underpin a diversified economy. And on that note, I digress briefly to indicate that later this month, on the 29th and the 31st this month, October, the ministry proposes to host its final round of consultations within the national community with a view to implementing 3 national policies. These are our multiculturalism and our cultural policy in the form of our national cultural policy and our grants and subventions policy. We are looking forward to engaging all our stakeholders and the nation in general to participate in this event. And we ask you to come out when you see the advertisements or the offer to participate, and please give us your perspective, give us your voice.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
Sport is up next, right after the break. A first-half beaver trick by Caledonia AIA forward Jamal Gay led the way as Trinidad and Tobago senior men's football team registered one of its most comprehensive victories in international competition with a 10-0 thrashing of Anguilla. The last time the Warriors were that dominant in a competitive outing was in 1989 in a Caribbean Cup qualifier, defeating Aruba 11-0. TNT went on to win the cup that year, defeating Grenada 2-1 in the final on a Dwight York double. The match on Sunday night, however, started half an hour late due to inclement weather conditions. At one point, the rain belting down with strong winds coming across Warner Park. The TNT bench was blown over and the substitutes and staff had to gather muscle to put it back into position. But that did not dampen the visitors as they dominated throughout against 204th ranked Anguilla. By the half, it was 7-0, courtesy Gay and a hat-trick from Philadelphia Union midfielder Keon Daniel. Vietnam-based Willis Plaza notched a double and debutant Sylvester Teasdale added one more and 4 assists to leave TNT sitting pretty at the top of the table on 9 points, scoring 15 goals and conceding 1 in 3 matches. As a player, current head coach Hudson Charles has tasted Caribbean Cup success, but after Sunday's heavy win, he admitted that Trinidad and Tobago still has some work to do before putting their hands on the cup they last captured in 2001. Next up for Trinidad and Tobago will be November 14th when they host the semi-final round of Caribbean Cup action. The top 2 teams from that tournament will then advance to the 8-nation finals in Antigua in December, from which 4 teams will advance to next year's CONCACAF Gold Cup. More news after the break. Stay with us. Members of the Government Information Services Limited family took time off from their busy schedules for a few hours, just a few, of fun and friendly competition as the events committee hosted the company's annual Chow Down. It was not just about constructing tasty combinations of fruits, vegetables, and seasonings, but an innovative presentation was needed to help sway the judges. As defending champions, the Finance Department started as clear favorites, but they face some keen competition. Here's Wayne Cunningham with a look at Chowdown 2012.
The second annual GSL Chowdown featured 5 teams vying to become 2012 Chowdown champions. HIR, a combination of human and information resources, marketing, IT, News 4, and the defending champions Finance. Shade Valdez of the Defense Committee outlined what the judges were looking for.
Today we are looking for creativity and originality with your chow, and your presentation is also another thing we're looking at, and well, obviously taste. So I guess that's about it, taste, presentation and originality. So yeah, that's what we're looking for ideally.
The teams had just 30 minutes to prepare their dishes from scratch, which created an intense atmosphere, which added to the excitement, according to company CEO Andy Johnson.
I'm impressed by the high level of participation, the deep sense of intensity that I see people working with. I'm looking at the presentation and the layout and so on. This is going to be a very keenly contested event.
Rhonda Joy Lewis of the Marketing and Communications outfit was very covert about their presentation.
Well, we have a specialty chow happening, a chow like no other. It's called a Trinmato chow.
A Trinmato chow?
Shh, don't talk too loud. Don't talk too loud. That's our specialty dish. As well as we have a chow that represents the national colors. It's coming out, you'll see it.
The panel of judges included Shade Valdez, Kelsa Bartley, Susan Celestin, Travis Hemley, Jovan Edwards, and Travis Wolf, with Andy Johnson as guest adjudicator. And they had an experience because the presentations were, well, unique. Like Finance's Gangnam Style, complete with dance, and the IT department's Apple Blend.
We have on the right just the digital apples. Now that is the apple family, pineapple and apple mixed up together in a beautiful blend.
The news team, marshaled by Kimberly Ram-Kilawan and Marian Bradshaw, had something special in store as Joseph Lopez presented their dish.
Everything for you. It is going to make your taste buds melt. Mouth watering, mouth watering, mouth watering. Say it. Mouth watering. Mouth watering. Let it go for you like that.
But what took the news team over the top was an extempo that Rex West would have been proud of.
If anybody here have cocoa in sun, newsroom is #1. We have all kind of things on display for you to taste. Chow, your cabin and his name. We have pepper and everything too. Oh gosh, come, your cocoa for you. Who's #1. News 4 team, who is the best? Oh God, look at the cocoa and take have some fun.
When the results came in, it was News 4 taking top honors, with information and human resources in second, and marketing and communication in third. The taste also had that special chow flavor, according to Gregory McBurney.
Real fire.
Wayne Cunningham, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Thank you for joining us.